20 million watched the Queen's deeply personal address to the nation last night, which saw her pay tribute to the country's strength during this increasingly challenging time, reminding Britons of this generation that they were as strong as any.
I hope in the years to come, everyone will be able to take pride in how they responded to this challenge. And those who come after us will say the Britons of this generation were as strong as any. We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
Brought tears to my eye when I watched that last night. 4 minutes and 15 seconds, broadcast to 53 Commonwealth nations. The American networks were taking it live, discussing this now with our royal editor, Camilla Tominey. Good morning, Camilla. And this was rare. This was rare for Her Majesty to do this.
Well, technically only the 5th time she's given a special broadcast. So I think most viewers will remember the time that she spoke in the aftermath of the death of Princess Diana in '97. She also gave an address when her mother died, the Queen Mother, in 2002. She spoke during the Gulf War in '91, and she gave an address to celebrate her Diamond Jubilee in 2012. But this was an extraordinary occasion, really, and even she admitted that she'd never encountered in all of her 68 years on the throne anything like coronavirus. And like you guys, I was watching and listening with a tear in my eye because her voice is so iconic and because she has that wealth of experience. She's 94 later this month. There was this sense of when she harked back to the wartime era, she was really the only one in the country that could have evoked that Blitz spirit. She lived through it. Her parents were famous for exemplifying it. And I just thought it did bring comfort and reassurance to the nation.
And also it seemed very heartfelt and also very personal.
Really personal. So I think some of the language she used, the way that she delivered it, it was 523, I thought, perfectly chosen words. We know that she had personal input into writing the speech. She would have worked on it with her private secretary and I think some input from Downing Street. But when she referred back to that time when she gave her first broadcast in 1940, back then she was 14 with her little sister, Princess Margaret, who was 10, and they spoke to child evacuees during the Second World War. But even to remember that and then to channel Force's sweetheart, Dame Vera Lynn, in saying that we will meet again, I thought was really special.
And the tone was, as you would expect, for her to perfectly pitch the tone, but it was stoic and, as you say, also nostalgic. It was encouraging.
Well, I think beforehand, Palisades had said that it would be realistic but rallying. And of course, we expected her to pay tribute to NHS staff, frontline workers like the supermarket staff that you just spoke to, and everyone that has made their contribution. But I think it was also about fostering a spirit of togetherness and this sense that she understands self-isolation. She's doing it herself in Windsor Castle, and that it is frustrating. I thought there was a nice grandmotherly wise note when she said that people should use this opportunity to just take a step back. Life can be busy. Step off the hamster wheel for a while. And equally, I think there was a sense of wanting to encourage people to stick with it. Yes, people are getting frustrated. It is a very odd situation that we're in. The world has been turned upside down. Easter's fast approaching and we can't be with our loved ones. So I think the timing was perfect. And then, of course, it coming ahead of the news that Boris Johnson had been hospitalised made it even more poignant.
Well, we come to Boris in just a moment, but just talking about that self-isolation, she spoke not so much as the head of state, but as and I think you have said, the mother of the nation, and the mother of the nation reiterated what we are told. And we saw over the weekend people were flouting the rules. She told us to stay in.
Yes, she told us to stay in, and also, let's be honest, we're in a constitutional monarchy. She isn't somebody who can give orders. She leaves that to the government and to the scientific experts. What she's here to do is to support that message, but also to reassure everybody that there will be an end to this. And I think that's what has brought most comfort. Over the years, she's been on the throne now nearly 7 decades. She has been this beacon of stability and continuity, and she's done it in this non-political way, which means we can just take what she's saying as read. And I think that's what makes her messages so powerful. And the fact that they're so few and far between. She remains still a quite elusive figure who doesn't wear her heart on her sleeve. So I think when she does, we all really take notice.
Yeah. And so who would have been in that room with her then? Obviously, she was being filmed, so there would have been the camera person would have been there. Who would have been around her at that time?
Well, the camera person, it needs to be said, was in full protective gear, so wearing a mask and at some distance to mitigate the risk against the Queen. And equally, all of the production staff were in another room. Ordinarily, they'd have been in adjusting lighting and things. But it does need to be said that she does have a small retinue of staff with her, because in accordance with the government advice, she is with her household. So I'd imagine that she will have been helped by her closest aide, Angela Kelly, who is her dresser and the curator of all of her jewellery, and basically her right-hand woman. And then also her right-hand man, Paul Wybrew, who's basically her head servant and butler. They are still in lockdown with her because they live with her anyway. Yeah. So she has still got that very, very tiny group of staff who will have been helping. But I think the staff that filmed it were kept at a distance.
Oh, someone would have to do her hair.
Yes, exactly. Although I think the Queen, after all these years and having not changed her haircut in any of that time, is perfectly capable of doing her hair in the same way that you're able to iron your own duvet cover, Phil.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'm proud of that. As far as the royal family were concerned, because another notable moment during the course of the weekend with the Prince of Wales opening the Nightingale Hospital via video link.
Yes, and I think that was significant in recognition, really, of this momentous effort by the military to get that hospital up and running in the course of days rather than weeks. So a 4,000-bed hospital, he was on video link, he's still in Scotland, he's come out of self-isolation, and he in turn recorded his own rallying message on video last Wednesday, paying tribute to NHS staff and all of the frontline workers that have done such a terrific job in keeping us all as safe and well as we can be. But yes, I think the royals, in their own way, have to be at the forefront of this idea of reassuring people that this will come to an end.
Camilla, let's talk about Boris Johnson here. We did hear last night that he'd been taken to hospital. They've said it's just a precautionary measure. Do you know any more about this morning?
Well, Downing Street are insisting that he remains in charge and at the helm. And I think Matt Hancock said on Sunday that his hands were still firmly on the tiller. But at the same time, there is a bit of chatter sort of behind the corridors of power as to whether the Prime Minister should just be left to rest. There's this conflict, isn't there, between him wanting to be seen to be running things, even though he's in self-isolation, but still having not managed to get over this temperature, and that's what's persisted. He's still got a temperature. So while Downing Street are saying this was not an emergency admission, he has gone for routine tests on the recommendation of a doctor, of course there'll be worries that the symptoms escalate simply because he is trying to keep calm and carry on, when actually, like anyone else who's got quite bad symptoms of COVID-19, he probably needs to be tucked up in bed.
Yeah.
And we've seen this is the way we all work now. Everybody works with video links, and so I'm sure that it's possible to run a country remotely and have all the necessary meetings and make all the necessary decisions. However, the Times are reporting that this is only this one particular source. The Times are reporting that he has been on oxygen.
Yes, so I think they have said that the hospital will have administered some oxygen, because also they need to make an assessment of how much oxygen is in his circulation and is in his blood. So that would be a routine measure. They'll be worried about pneumonia, like any patient with COVID-19. They don't want the symptoms to escalate. But what this is indicative of is the fact that on one hand you have the Prince of Wales, who had mild symptoms and was out within a week and seemed to be fine with it, and on the other hand a Prime Minister who is in good health. He's 55 but he exercises regularly. He had been on a diet and stopped drinking during the election campaign, so he's in fine fettle, but clearly he may have been hit by a more severe strain. And I'm sure viewers are familiar with this, knowing people that have had it and been fine, and knowing people who have had it who have been knocked out for a fortnight.
All right, Camilla, thank you very much.
Thanks for
joining us.